Balancing equations. Let's learn together how to write a simple equation and how to balance an equation. Consider this word equation at first. Hydrogen plus oxygen gives water. So water is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, and this is the word equation because we are writing the reactants and the products as words and not as symbols. To write the simple equation, we should write the symbols of each reactant and each product. What is the symbol of hydrogen? Well, the symbol of hydrogen is H2. What's the symbol of oxygen? That's O2. H2 and O2, hydrogen and oxygen, are the reactants in this equation. The product is water. What's the symbol of water? It's H2O, and now we have our simple equation. But the thing that you need to remember about equations, the golden rule, is that the number of atoms in the reactants equal the number of atoms in the products. So for example, the number of hydrogen atoms in the reactants should be exactly equal to the number of hydrogen atoms in the products, and the number of oxygen atoms in the reactants should be equal to the number of oxygen atoms in the products. How many hydrogen atoms do we have in the reactants? We have 2 hydrogen atoms, H2. And how many hydrogen atoms do we have in the product? Also 2 hydrogen atoms. So the number of hydrogen atoms in the reactant is equal to the number of hydrogen atoms in the product, which is 2. As for oxygen, the number of oxygen atoms in the reactants is 2 because we have O2 in the reactants. But how many oxygen atoms do we have in the products? Well, we have only 1 oxygen atom in H2O. It's 1O. So 2 oxygen atoms in the reactants and 1 oxygen in the products. That's why we need to balance this equation to have the number of oxygen atoms in the reactants equal to the number of oxygen atoms in the products. How can we do that? We can add 2 next to H2O. This means that we have 2 H2O molecules and therefore 2 oxygen atoms. So now we have 2 oxygen atoms in the reactants and 2 oxygen atoms in the products. But let's count again. We have 4 hydrogen atoms now in the products. 2 times 2 equals 4, so we have 4 hydrogen atoms. And we need 4 hydrogen atoms in the reactants, and that's why we added 2 before H2 in the reactants. After you finish balancing an equation, always count the number of atoms again to make sure that you have balanced it correctly.